The Kreg Pocket Hole Jig. A useful tool? All that and more coming up. I've been using a Kreg K3 pocket hole jig to make some pocket holes in a cabinet that I'm making for my shop. This has worked out really well for me on the project I've been working on, and I'm sure that it will work for me in the future as well. That Festool CT vacuum is sure noisy. I even have the volume turned down some. I have to wear my earmuffs over my isotunes to drown out all that noise. Now that's a lot of pocket holes. This is my Kreg K3 pocket hole jig. You may have noticed that I mounted my Kreg jig to a board. I had a piece of melamine that was the right size just sitting around the shop, so that's what I used. Then on each side of the Kreg jig, I put 2 pieces of 1/2-inch plywood. I had some scraps of oak plywood, so I used those. Those were just a hair short of the deck for the Kreg jig, which is 1 inch high, due to the metric system. But I jimmied things around a little bit so that they're perfect height for the Kreg jig. You also probably noticed that my Kreg jig is an older version of the K4. My jig is actually a K3 master system, which is no longer being made. The K4 has the latch that holds the wood on the back of the jig, not the front of the jig. I really prefer having the latch on the front of the jig. It's much easier than trying to reach around the piece of work that you have in the jig to get to the latch. The K5 has the latch on the front. So if you're looking for one that has the latch on the front, the K5 is best. The K5 also comes with the deck already built in and some good storage for your bits and other Kreg accessories. So I'd suggest that you get the K5 rather than the K4. Here's an example of a K5 mounted on a piece of black melamine. Here are some accessories that go with the Kreg jig. It requires a special drill bit that's really a step drill bit that has a hex shank. It drills a pilot hole for the screw and then steps up to the diameter of the screw head. There's also a stop collar that prevents the drill from going too deep into the jig. The jig comes with a square drive bit to drive in the Robertson head screws. The bit is 5 7/8 inches long. I have a shorter square drive bit that I threw in my kit for tight spaces. There's also a hex key wrench that works with the stop collar. It has an Allen wrench on each end. This makes it very handy for adjusting the stop collar. They've also added in measurements for wood thickness. Something I've found really handy is the vacuum attachment. Remember to check out my video on attaching my Festool vacuum to my Kreg jig. In the video, I share how I solved the problem. Kreg also has this screw selector wheel. The front side is for selecting screws for face joints. This is a common use for Kreg screws, especially in things like face frames. The back side shows edge joints. This joint is often used for making boxes or drawers. These wheels are especially helpful when joining pieces of wood that are different thicknesses. Setting up a Kreg jig like my K3 or a K4 is very simple. The block needs to be adjusted for the right thickness of wood. I'm setting mine for wood that's 3/4 of an inch thick. The next step is setting the stop collar on the drill bit. The guide for doing this is right on the jig. Once the drill bit is in the right place, the stop collar is slipped on. The stop collar is tightened on the bit with an Allen wrench or this Kreg hex key wrench. The collar has to be tight enough so it doesn't slip when the drill bit is put into the Kreg jig. On the newer drill bits, Kreg has included the 3 most popular sizes in these circles, as shown here. All that's necessary is to line up the hole in the collar with the size of your choice and tighten it down with the wrench. And here is the result. I have the 3/4 inch mark showing in the hole in the collar, so it's all ready to go. To clamp the piece of wood into the jig, adjustments are necessary with the screw on the back. Once that's set, pull down on the handle of the latch and you're ready to drill pocket holes. It's that simple. What many people don't realize is that this drill guide block can be removed from the Kreg jig and it can be used as a drill guide block on a piece of wood just by itself, similar to how a Kreg Mini is used. The Kreg set that I got even included a clamp for doing this. I'd like to share with you a drill accessory that I've used with my Kreg jig. This is a snappy, quick chuck. It allows me to change from my screwdriver bit to my drill bit real quickly. This quick change chuck will work with any hex bit. It's a very handy tool to have. When I got my Kreg jig, this is the packet of screws that came with it as part of the deal that I got at a woodworking show. I have to admit, I've only used the long exterior screws and the ones that I'm using now for the cabinet, the coarse 1 1/4 inch screws. The other screws, I'm not sure what I'm going to use them for. I know that there are other screws on the market that will work with a Kreg jig. I know people that have bought them, but I haven't had the need, so I haven't tried anything other than the Kreg screws. Some people think they're rather expensive. I found some recently at Rocklear on a real good sale, so I'm going to be set for pocket screws for quite a while. I won't be ordering anymore. This is what a Kreg pocket screw looks like before being screwed in. This is what that same screw looks like after it's been screwed into the other piece of wood. This is a very secure joint, even without glue. I thought I'd add in the historical background for the Kreg Pocket Hole Jig. This is an instance where one woodworker lost one job and gained another, and a dream came true. Craig Summerfield was building some cabinets for his home, and rather than putting the face frames on with nails and putty like he usually did, he wanted something different. Since Craig was also a die maker, He designed this jig and built it out of an aluminum. As we now know from Kreg's jigs that we see today, it allowed him to drill into the wood at an angle by placing the drill bit in an angled steel sleeve. After others saw Kreg's jig, that's with a C, they wanted one for themselves. So Kreg started making them during the week and selling them on the weekends at woodworking shows. After thousands of demonstrations and a lot of feedback from other woodworkers, he perfected his jig into what we know today as Kreg's jig. This is a photo of the first Kreg jig with a K, also known as the K1. It was also made from cast aluminum with steel drill guides. Somewhere along the line, the K1 became the K2. It sported a blue handle, which we now know as the Kreg Blue. And the jigs were made from die-cast aluminum rather than sand-cast. In 2000, Kreg introduced a tool for the new millennium, the Kreg 2000. It was made of injection molded plastic rather than metal. The glass-filled nylon was faster and far less expensive to produce, far more durable, and allowed convenience features, all without increasing the price. The K3 was released in late fall of 2005. It introduced front clamping, dust collection, a drill guide block, and adjustability in 1/8 increments for materials from 1/2 to 1.5 inches thick. In 2008, Kreg started advertising the K4 jig on national television. It appealed to do-it-yourselfers as well as woodworkers. The following year, Home Depot started selling Kreg products. The fall of 2013 saw the debut of the K5, Kreg's most advanced jig. It reintroduced the front clamp and removable support wings that also double as storage for drill bits and other accessories. A new rotatable dust collection port was added, and more. Somewhere along the line, Kreg introduced the Kreg Mini. Similar jigs have been popping up ever since. I'm sure there are others that aren't shown here. I realize in this video that I haven't even mentioned the Kreg Foreman. It's another pocket hole jig. In fact, it's a whole big machine. It drills the pocket holes with a drill that's attached inside of the Kreg Foreman itself. It's more of a production tool as far as I'm concerned. But if I had a whole lot of kitchen cabinets to do or drilling a lot of pocket holes, I'd be able to market for one of those, even though they are more expensive, because you can get a lot more pocket holes done in a short period of time with one of those machines. But for me right now, it's just not suitable for my needs. I mentioned earlier that I'd used the exterior screws. I used them to build this practice ramp for our dogs. It sits out in the yard and has been out there for quite a long time, and it's doing quite well. We set it up next to a mirror like this so that we can see what the dog looks like when they're stacked on the ramp. We've even used the ramps for puppy practice. This is our little Pixie when she was a puppy. She's now a champion and the mother of our most recent litter. This is a video of me trying to stack Miller. He wasn't too cooperative that day, but at least I have a video of him trying to stack, and you can see how I'm using the mirror. Since that ramp was successful, I built another one to go out in our front yard. This is Keikos when we were practicing for a match out in our front yard, and this is how Keikos decided to stack for his breeder. He decided not to be real cooperative with her that day. Of course, the ultimate goal is to practice with the dogs so that they can win at a dog show. This is Lexi winning at her very first show with Mary showing her. I have at least made one piece of furniture or a built-in that used some pocket screws in part of the construction. This is a bookshelf divider between our family room area and our kitchen area. You can see that it has a gate that slides out behind it. That's Sassy peeking through. This is the gate from the back, and it slides over on a drawer slide behind the bookcase on the left-hand side here. This is what it looks like from the family room side most of the time with the gate open. And here's what the shelf looks like from the other side. All of those books are photo albums of our AKC champions. Maybe I need to do a video on this shelf and gate. I just finished drilling the pocket holes in a drawer I'm making for my cabinet. This is a prototype drawer. I've never made a drawer using pocket holes before, so I thought I'd give it a try and do an experiment with this drawer first. I'm enjoying using my Kreg jig. Yes, I know there's others out there on the market. They might be just as good. In fact, I almost bought one that came out last year. It looked pretty sharp, but then once I figured out how to hook up my Festool vac to my Kreg jig, and you can watch that video, it's turned out to be a great jig. It really doesn't make a mess anymore, and it's very easy to use, as you've seen in this video. So yes, I know there's a lot of others on the market, but I'm enjoying my Kreg jig. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up down below. Thank you all to those who have subscribed to our channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you've subscribed, ring that notification bell. That way you know when I'm going to be putting out videos. I have quite a few planned coming up, so you need to ring that bell so you know when they show up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I love reading the questions and comments, and I like responding to them. Please share this video with others. If you have some other woodworkers that you know, please share our channel. Our channel's growing a little bit, and that's really good, but it'd be nice if it could grow even more. So thank you all very much for watching.